guest. This is Chris Burdge of BWest Interactive. And so, Chris, welcome to my show.
Thanks very much, Linda. It's good to be here. Good morning.
Good morning. So tell us all about yourself and your business, what you do, who your clients are, what you're up to.
Sure. Okay. Well, I guess in terms of my background, I come from kind of traditional advertising. I started in the ad agency world. I don't know how far back you want to go, but...
as far back as you like.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I can relate to the advertising world because that's where I came from as well.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, even kind of predating advertising, I guess I was living in Tokyo in Japan at the time, and I was working for, this is going to date me, but it was like 1993, I think, which actually predates the World Wide Web.
1993.
Yeah, well, I was living in Tokyo, and I was working for a company called the Internet Access Center, and it was what do they call them back then? Was I forget, there was some acronym, but anyway, they provided access to the internet through a bulletin board service, the old BBS. So if you remember, like CompuServe and AOL back in the day, well, the company had developed a BBS for the American Chamber of Commerce in Japan, and so I was employee number 3 at that company, and we were creating ads on the BBS for the likes of the members of the chamber there. So Coca-Cola, United Airlines, like the Fortune 500 of the US who had representation in Japan. And then the World Wide Web came along. So with Netscape and the first web browser, and then we migrated off of the BBS into the internet world and started developing websites for these companies in Japan. They're kind of .co.jp versions of the .com websites, so Japanese websites. And I won't go through the whole story, but I migrated that into, over the course of a couple of years, into a position at a traditional ad agency in Japan called Cove Ito. It was a partnership between Peter Cove and Kazuhiro Ito. They were considered a small agency in Japan. There were about 150 employees. That was small in Japan. But launched their first division, I forget even what we called it then, if it was interactive marketing or digital marketing way back then. And that was my first kind of foray into the ad agency and online marketing interactive. And it was just website development back then.
Right.
And their main client was BMW Japan. And so we developed the first website for BMW in Japan. And did all kinds of course, we were doing all the traditional stuff as well, TV, print. And so for the longest time, the web was the kind of poor stepchild sort of scenario. But ended up moving back to Canada in 1999 and working at McCann Erickson in Toronto, and then Publicis in Toronto. So 2 of the biggest ad agencies in the world. Kind of cut my teeth on traditional advertising there, always in the interactive marketing division. And then skip ahead, moved to Victoria a little over 15 years ago and launched the company that I have now, BWest Interactive. But didn't know a soul in Victoria, but thought, move from Toronto, big city, shouldn't be any problem. Taking over, this little backwater of Victoria here. But I soon found out that it wasn't going to be as easy as I thought, because I didn't know anybody here. And as we know from living here, that it has more to do with, your network and who you know and your kind of community credibility. And so went to work for a small ad agency here for a few years and then relaunched BWest about 11 years ago. And so that kind of brings you sort of up to speed with today. But so BWest has been around almost 11 years, actually. In July, it'll be 11 years. And we provide, it started off just as social media, because 11 years ago, that's when kind of social media was just getting going with Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. But then we have grown into a full service agency, although we're still very small. There's only 4 of us. So it's a boutique agency, I guess you would call it. But we do website design and development, social media marketing. So mostly strategy, content development, content marketing, search engine optimization, and a lot of online advertising nowadays. So Google ads, Facebook ads, LinkedIn, Instagram, etc. So that kind of brings you up to speed with BWest. And then, of course, for almost 5 years ago now, I launched the SOHO Summit, which is the small office, home office conference that you were part of last year and did the photography for. And we can talk more about that. But that's a kind of a
lot of
5-minute synopsis of my background.
Right. So who would you say for your BWest Interactive, like who would you say your ideal clients are, or people that you like to work with? Like, I mean, who inspires you the most in your work?
Mm-hmm. Well, we work mostly with small businesses because we are a small company and we don't get into everything. And we're 100% WordPress shop. So we only develop sites in WordPress, which probably runs 80, at least, I would say at least 80% of the internet websites. So we develop sites in WordPress, but even for clients that we don't do the website for, we still do lots of SEO work, social media work, and so on. So small business, there's no one particular industry that we work with. We work with local companies. Some of our longest term clients are, yeah, I don't know if it was
Can you say that again? There was a little lag in the internet.
Oh, okay.
We were talking about it.
Yeah, so lots of local clients. So some of our longest term clients are like the Victoria International Airport. I see you got the puppy home as well. Yeah, mine will walk by at some point. Yeah. And so some of them we have been doing social media marketing for 9 or 10 years, and then others like we do website development. And a lot of clients are outside of Victoria. So some of our clients we've never actually met in person. We have a client in Fiji, Nanuku Fiji Resort. Design their website, do their social media marketing, search engine optimization. Never actually met them in person. Other companies in other parts of the world as well.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, you can work, well, with internet, you can work.
Yeah, and then we do this sort of thing. So virtual Zoom meetings and video and phone and lots of email. Yeah.
Exactly. So the SOHO Summit, so that is obviously your baby that you created and started. And so what inspired you to do the SOHO Summit?
Yeah, well, it actually came out of a networking group that I belonged to, and I had belonged to for a long time. And as part of the function of the networking group was that it was a large group, but we had kind of subcommittees or subgroups depending on the industry that you were in. And so my particular industry is business to business, so B2B. So within this group, we had members, we had a lawyer, an accountant, an IT guy, insurance, lots of different B2B. And we would meet once a month at somebody's office. And we would, one of the people that, or one of the companies at the meeting would come with a particular challenge or problem or issue that they were having. And they would put it out to the group, and we would use kind of the brain trust of that group. And there was about 8 members, and we would all kind of, do a kind of a SWAT team on that particular business and challenge, and we would help that person with our ideas and not so much implementation, but we would just really help them solve that issue and bring all of our kind of knowledge and expertise and experience to bear on that particular issue. And that went on for a couple of years. And I had already been doing Social Media Camp at that time, which is another conference, for quite a few years. And so I knew how to put on a conference. And it just occurred to me at one of these meetings, I thought to myself, I get so much value out of being part of this group, not only just for all the kind of support that we need as entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and business owners, just in terms of the kind of day-to-day, and sometimes you're up, sometimes you're not, and you need that support. But then also the help solving these problems, and it doesn't even have to be marketing related. It could be like, I'm thinking of hiring this person, or I need to get rid of this person, or I'm having an issue with this client, or I need new software, whatever it happens to be. And then this group would help solve those problems and have answers. And I thought to myself, how do other small business people, where do they get this kind of support? Where do they get these kind of answers? And do they or don't they? I don't know. So I thought to myself, well, here we are. We're these 8 people and we're helping each other and I'm getting all this value out of it. I wonder if there is like a conference in this. Is there a bigger idea that we could have here? And actually, as that thought occurred to me, I asked all the members of the group, and they all said, yeah, that definitely sounds like something that would work. And so, that was the genesis of it right there. And so with that, I kind of planned things out over a
Yeah.
period of time.
And that was how long ago again? That was 10 years ago?
So no, that would have been 5 years ago
5
now.
years ago, right.
And then I held the first one or the first 4 actually. Sorry, no, the first 3 in January, because I thought, it was kind of a good way to start the new year. But the last one I decided to go in October, which is actually Small Business Month, because SOHO is really for small businesses. And there was some other issues around January as well, coming right after Christmas. And all the issues
it's not necessarily a good
yeah,
time.
yeah. Yeah, and so it's kind of grown since then and become more of a kind of a well-known brand and something that I really enjoy. And it was just a passion project at first. It wasn't meant to be a huge revenue generator.
We got a little lag
But
there. Yeah.
I just really love putting it on. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess, you told the story of when you came to Victoria and you didn't really know anybody, and what better way to really get to know everybody is put on a conference. So, as somebody who is kind of one of the pioneers of, the internet and digital marketing and that kind of thing, and from the standpoint of like a change maker or somebody who really wants to sort of make a difference in the world, did you have an idea or vision of how digital marketing could really lift up people in their business to really, make a difference? Or, I know it's advertising and you're helping companies and stuff, but I know, most companies, I think, try to do well or do good for the world. You know what I mean? Did you have sort of an inkling of that when you first started, and has that, kind of changed your vision of marketing and advertising?
When I first started SOHO, you mean?
Just when you started back in '93,
Oh boy.
Yeah, did you have a kind of a vision for how you could see the world changing through digital marketing and for the better, I guess?
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because I've never been, a lot of people that kind of get into online marketing or, even especially back then were kind of nerds or geeks, I guess, and were into video games and stuff. And that was never me. I never owned a computer. And so I came at it not from the tech side, but I came at it from the communications and the strategy side.
Right.
And before going to work for that company that I mentioned, the Internet Access Center, I was actually working for a magazine, a print magazine in Japan. And that was how I met the guys at IAC, the Internet Access Centers. I was trying to sell them advertising in the magazine.
Oh,
and
okay.
I guess maybe they were impressed with my selling skills or something. I don't know. But they said, hey, great. We'd love to hear about the magazine. But actually, rather than that, do you want to come and work for us?
Yeah.
It's kind of the way it worked out.
It's always the unexpected, hey? You're like,
yeah. And so, they told me all about what they were doing. And I thought to myself, well, this internet thing, that's got to go somewhere. Hey, that's got to be big. I had no idea, right, where things were going. But I thought, I've got the magazine here, or, there's this new bulletin board. It wasn't even called the internet back then, this bulletin board that they're doing for the chamber. So I thought, what the heck, I'll take a chance. And it worked out to be pretty good. It actually ended up shaping the rest of my life. So
yeah.
So I knew there was something there. I had no idea what it was going to be, though, and those were very early days. But I quickly realized that this is going to change things for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Because it really has. We've watched I remember CC Mail back when I worked in advertising. That was how we communicated.
Yeah.
This is really cool, and I don't really remember when the internet. Well, I kind of do, I guess, but it just seems like it's always been with us. But at the same time, not.
Yeah.
But so from a when I look at the SOHO Summit and just what you've created over the years, and when I think about the context of why we're talking, we really are, like back in the old days, it was really hard to get ourselves out there and advertise ourselves. Compared to now. So now we have this opportunity to really use our voices, and now more so than ever
Mm-hmm.
with social media. And I think because you specialize in social media, and we're all on the internet now because we're on lockdown, and we're having to communicate this way. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think social media is exploding. Am I right in saying that? Like, I mean, in terms of
Mm-hmm.
everyone's trying to find their spot, and
Yeah, for sure.
voice be
Well, yeah. Well, social media has definitely matured over the years. I mean, it's been, give or take, it's been 10, 11, 12 years now. So even pre kind of COVID, it had already matured, and all kinds of new platforms have come up, and they continue to come up. I mean, even, Instagram was a new thing at one point, then Snapchat, and now TikTok, and, it
yeah.
continues to evolve. But certainly, I think the use of social media just in the last month, since we've, with COVID-19 crisis and people having to find new ways to communicate and even new ways to do business, in a lot of cases, they're leaning more on social media to get a message out there, to communicate with people, to do customer support, to just communicate and do even, what we're doing. So
Exactly. Yeah.
I've seen just some stats, but I know Facebook usage, from what I've read, has gone up 700%.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, and I'm sure all of the other social channels have gone way as well and experienced increases. But I think also people probably were reactionary at first and just thought, okay, I've got to get out there, I've got to communicate. But I think they're being more strategic now and a little more careful about what they say and how they use it, to really figure out who are their customers, and what are their customer, what do they want and need to know about right now, depending on what your business is, and then how best to communicate with them. So we've been working with, the first thing we did as a company is went out to all of our clients just to say, how are you? Are you okay? Everyone healthy? And even before we started to figure out, how can we help you in your business to communicate? Because in some cases, depending on if they were a restaurant, they had to completely shut down, or even, we have some health clinics that provide, if you're doing in-person service, so dentists and so on, who had to completely shut down. And so there's a different process depending on kind of where you fall in that whole, isolation grid.
Yeah, the whole kind of construct of social media
Yeah.
is now kind of very, very different. And I think, I see more and more people like really like myself embracing video. I never thought I'd be in front of the
Yeah.
camera. But I mean, this is what I love. I love hearing about, people making a difference in the community, like yourself, and, how you got there. And like, how do you see that sort of manifesting in your business, like with your clients? How are people sort of shifting, I guess, the way they do business? Are they kind of taking things to the next level, maybe, like in their messaging? What do you see going on right now?
Yeah, well, lots of good stuff, and there's some, there's all kinds of different stories. Again, depending on what type of business you're in, but I think people are starting to sort of adapt, and everyone sort of paused and backed up a little bit just to look at, well, how is this affecting us and our clients and the community as a whole? And how can we best serve our clients? And so in some cases, like for the wellness clinics, where you're not actually able to have people into your office or facility because of the social isolation and the 2-meter distancing, so they found ways to provide whatever services they can over video. And so they're doing that, and Zoom usage certainly has gone way up. We've had other clients, for example, a couple of wineries that they had to shut down at first, and of course there was pent up demand for that particular product because everybody wanted a beverage, and so that they've found ways to kind of slowly reopen and have people put in orders. And they've created a process whereby the order could come in and they would have the product ready for them to pick up, where no human interaction was required, or there was the social distancing was in place. And of course, the customers were appreciative of that because, they wanted what these companies had to offer.
Yeah.
So they're finding themselves actually, although they were completely stopped for a while, now they're very busy.
But yeah, I think a lot of businesses are super busy, like just because, I don't
Yeah,
know, people are really kind of embracing this technology. And, I really, I wanted to talk to you about, I think social media is kind of almost shaping our society in a way. Um,
for
I
sure.
think in a
Yeah.
positive way. I mean, can you comment on that a little bit? Like just in terms of like, how is this raising people up? I think people are focusing more on the important things and, trying to,
Yeah, well, even yeah, for sure. Even like business aside, although that's as business owners, and that's what we kind of have to do to keep the economy rolling and keep all of us employed and able to support our families and so on. But just in a general use, yeah, I've seen all kinds of just. I mean, first of all, really inspiring and creative uses of social media where either
Mhm.
people are they're getting healthy, and so they're finding ways to use this time to share how they're doing that. So I've seen that
Yeah.
all kinds of really creative ways that they're showing their gratitude and appreciation for the frontline healthcare workers and so on.
Mhm.
So of
People are
course,
really
at
coming
7 o'clock,
together.
people making music and noise and so on, but then also doing videos and stuff. I saw a super crazy one yesterday, but very creative, but a little risque. This is on Facebook, and just to, I guess, get attention, but again, thank the healthcare workers. Um, yeah, I mean, people have got lots of time, and the human race is pretty creative, right? So everyone, their creative juices
Yeah,
are
well,
definitely
that's been
flowing.
really, yeah, really
Yeah,
inspiring to see. I mean, I have a friend in Paris who's started a movement with her Breathe in Paris, Susan Avari, and she's
yeah,
doing live videos, and she's,
yeah,
people are posting, reposting, and, people are, getting healthy with the breath work, and just really,
yeah,
she's helping them to really, help them through this time. And I know she, among many other
yeah,
health practitioners, are doing the same. So they're using Instagram Live, Facebook Live,
yeah,
Zoom, virtual classes. It's pretty inspiring to see what everybody's doing and embracing the technology. And so,
yeah.
what do you think moving forward? I mean, I know we talked about it's kind of like evolving and kind of shaping the way we do things as a society and stuff. So, how do
Hmm.
you see, or what impact do you see, social media and the internet going forward, like as a positive force for business owners and
Hmm.
how they want to make an impact in the world? Like, how do you see that kind of evolving, I guess, after maybe we've worked through all this stuff or, during?
Yeah. Well, it's a great question, and it's something that's on everybody's mind. And I think before we started recording, I'd mentioned that email that I got from someone I follow down in the U.S., and the headline was, we're back to the new abnormal. So instead of the new normal, it's the new abnormal. So again, it's I don't think anyone thinks that we're going back to the way it was. It's just not going to
Mm,
happen. So there is the new normal or abnormal, meaning that we will put these practices that we've sort of been doing a little bit anyway, or that we were thinking of doing, and now this crisis has just pushed everything to the forefront. So, for example, with Soho going online and doing webinars and so on, I
mhm,
think that's going to be a part of just the normal process of doing business.
mhm.
We're all obviously itching to get back to because we're humans. We want that interaction again, and we want to be able to talk and see people and be spontaneous and do all those things, and that will happen eventually. It's going to take another maybe month or two,
Yeah.
but I think these sorts of there's still going to be a certain amount of social distancing that's going to be required at least for a half a year, maybe a year. And who knows? We can't tell the future if this thing is going to come back or some other form. But at least now we know how to deal with it, and we know that we can deal with it. And we've got these processes, not only the Zoom, but there's all kinds of other things that we can do that we can keep business and society and media and government and education and just keep everything rolling.
Mhm.
And we're the human race is very adaptive, right? So
For
for
sure.
we were even talking about like with the kids. In some cases, I'm not sure they even know it. Obviously they notice something is different, but they just roll with it. And it just becomes part of their day to
Yeah.
day, and it's no big deal. Whereas as parents, we're all like worried. Oh, what's going to go on? And
Exactly.
so, I think we'll take all of the good, employ that, or kind of embed that in our new process, drop what's not working, really embrace, when we're able to go back out and maybe not shake hands, but
Yeah,
whatever
exactly.
that looks like,
Well, I
fist
think,
bump.
we were kind of moving in. I mean, I saw a lot of, before all this happened, a lot of businesses were moving online. And so I think, like you said, we were already moving in
Yeah.
this direction. And, like my son, I mean, like you said, kids are so adaptive. I mean, and they've got their Google classrooms or whatever. And,
Mm.
he was even saying he feels more productive and he's more excited about learning.
Yeah.
And I mean, yes, there's, the being social in real life is
Yeah.
obviously what we all need as human beings, but at the same time, it's not a bad thing. Like what's going on right now, I think there's a lot of positives. And even the fact that we can't drive anywhere, we can, but we're not driving as much,
Yeah.
we're not flying as much, so we're kind of, for the environment, it's actually helping quite a bit. I mean, I go outside and I'm like, wow, this, I can actually see the Olympic mountains.
Yeah.
I think it is making a positive impact, just the
Yeah.
move to technology. And
Yeah.
and then
Well, we're pretty fortunate where we live because we
yeah,
have, beauty surrounding us all the time, and the air is pretty clear most of the time. But yeah, I've heard
yeah,
those stories about people in Beijing. I forget if it was Beijing or one of the cities where they said they've seen this particular mountain range for the first time ever. People lived there their whole lives. They
yeah.
never knew there was this whole mountain range there because they've
Say
never
that
seen it
again.
because
So
there's
you
always
kind of
smog.
lagged there for a sec. What did
Oh,
you say?
just yeah, in some of these cities like LA or Beijing or places where there's just been smog all the time, some variation of smog, and so they've never even seen this whole mountain range. That suddenly they realize, wow, I had no idea that was even there.
He was there the whole time.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. um, so, so for people who are, I mean, I think there's a lot of people are like, okay, they've kind of known they have to kind of embrace technology. They have to get themselves on camera, if they want to get noticed on the internet and social media and stuff like that. And whether it's to share their message or to, grow their business or whatever. I see a lot of people are like, okay, it's time to put myself out there
Hmm.
kind of thing. So what would you say, for small business owners and entrepreneurs and stuff, like what would be some sort of top 3 tips you might give them to help them stay top of mind on social media, kind of through the sea of people that are on there right now?
Yeah, well, I would say pause first. Take this opportunity if you haven't already, just to pause and think first about who you are as a business, why you got into business, what do you stand for, what does your brand stand for, because that hasn't changed.
Mm-hmm.
And so before you do, and this kind of relates to the last Soho webinar we did last week with Mark Stoiber, where he said, don't do random acts of marketing, because we can get very reactive and think, oh, okay, business is slowing down. This is happening. I've got to get out on Twitter right away and I've got to put out a
Yeah.
message and an offer or a discount or something. Don't do that. Just
Mhm.
stop, uh, take take stock, think strategically first. Who we are, what are we going to do? Another tip that I learned that I've been giving people is if you're going to send out a message, answer these 3 questions first. Why me? So why should I be sending this out, or why my business? Why this particular message? So whether it's hope you're doing well, or it's a discount or whatever. So why me? Why this? And why now? So why is this important now? And if you can answer those 3 questions, then go out with that message.
Mm-hmm. That's
But
great advice.
yeah, really, just I think the main thing is don't be reactive, be strategic, and just have a look around and take all things into consideration, because it's not the end of the world, and business is going to recover, and we're going to come out the other end
Mhm.
soon. And so, there's all kinds of considerations about dropping prices and all these other things. I think just be strategic about it.
Mhm.
And then, of course, you're going to want to use social media more probably than you have in the past, because that's how people are communicating now. But, first, probably think, how can you serve them, as opposed to, what can you get out of it? How can you
Right.
provide value, I guguess, to use an overused term. Yeah.
That's very important. Yeah. How can I serve? How can I help?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess one question I have personally, because I find it kind of overwhelming sometimes, and like, how do you figure out, and I know this is probably an in-depth answer, but there's so many platforms and stuff, like, I mean, and I've heard this, like, pick one or two or three platforms, like how do you determine kind of which platforms you're going to use, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and that's actually and that's nothing new. I've kind of that's something that's been a part of what we help clients with even back before, because of course when social media came along, and certain people got really excited about it, and all of a sudden you'd see on their website they'd have like 15 different social media icons, some I didn't even recognize, and I think to myself, this person is a realtor, or they're an author or something. Like, how can they possibly remain consistent on all of these platforms? And the answer is you can't, but they just thought, oh, this is great, I can do all this. So yeah, to your point, I would say pick a couple that you're comfortable with, but kind of more importantly is pick a couple where your clients are, or where the people that you want to reach are, because some mediums lend themselves more to a particular type of communication, and certainly Facebook is one that offers kind of a bit of everything. So you can do text messaging, you can do images, you can do video, you can do live streaming. There's a lot of people on it. But at the same time, again, depending on your business, it's more where people are, they're spending time talking to their friends, and sometimes they don't want to be interrupted with a particular type of business messaging. So you have to take all of those things into consideration. But yeah, I would say, again, be strategic about it. Think about where your clients are. And then also, depending on what your business is and what your product or service is, how can you best deliver a message around that particular, and combine those two things, and then, come out with some ideas. And again, depending on even what your personal resources are, if it's like yourself, a photographer, and you or a realtor, where you are the business, and you're wearing all kinds of hats, do you have the time to do all of these things? And, obviously in photography, it's a very visual medium. So probably Instagram is huge for you, because that in an instant shows exactly what you have to offer, and so on. So, strategically, again, taking all those things into consideration.
Right. Yeah. It can be overwhelming, but when you really break it down and just go, okay, these are the platforms I feel comfortable. This is where my audience is, and how can I best serve them on these platforms? So that's really great advice. Okay. So we're going to just talk a bit about, I know we talked about how we worked together on the SOHO Summit. It was last year, wasn't it? Last October, I guess.
Yeah, it was last October. Yeah.
Yeah. And you had some amazing speakers, and, I just want to reiterate, like, your vision of, really making it it was important for you to really get to know people in your community. And, the idea of pulling together all these experts in business really is an act of a change maker. I mean, I think what you did was actually help raise up people in their businesses. Because, I think most people that I come across, most business owners, they're not all, like, money isn't their primary idea or vision for doing their business. It's usually they want to make a difference, whether it's in their business or in addition. I have a lot of clients that I've worked with, which is part of the reason I'm doing the show, is to really highlight those people, because I see that all the time. I see people who, like, I'm like, okay, you're a realtor. Oh my God, but you do this? You help some organization or cause, or, and it's quite surprising, to hear that. And so I love the SOHO Summit, and I'm glad that it's going virtual, because I think, and you can talk about this a little bit, just in terms of the people that you get on there. I mean, I think it's just really helping raise us as a whole, as a collective, to really thrive in our businesses, but at the same time make a difference. So can you talk a bit about that,
Yeah.
maybe just in general and
Yeah, well,
what
you've kind of
inspired
alluded
people?
to, you've alluded a couple of times to a saying that I really like, and I don't know where it came from, but high tide floats all boats. And so,
Ah,
that's what I think Soho kind of does in a way is just raises the tide for everybody. And just as you were talking about it, I kind of realized that the one part of it that I really really love is bringing all those people together and
yeah,
having the in-person event and just seeing all of the networking and the connections and the kind of business deals or all the great things that happen there that I just realized, with the online summit, it's going to happen in a way. It's going to be a different way. But the part that I love about it is the part that I'm going to kind of miss because there's not that in person,
right.
the sessions and then all the interaction between sessions and then the big networking event afterwards and then so that we're going to try to recreate that online, but obviously it's not the
Mhm.
same thing. Um, but yeah, the part that I love most about it is bringing all those different professions and people together in the different formats that we have, speakers and workshops and so on. But then all the great stories, and I always hear a few of them after the event. People that met that either they didn't know that they provided certain services, but they end up collaborating on a new project or maybe hiring someone because they needed that particular service or someone ended up getting a job or a new client. We always get all kinds of great stories like that. And then sometimes I hear about them right away at the event, or sometimes I'll hear about them months later. And
Yeah.
I'll be hanging out with some people, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, I'm working with so and so. I met him at Soho. It's been great." And even like every, probably once a week, I'll hear a story like that from like 2 or 3 Sohos ago. Oh, yeah, I met Bob and we started working together. And
Yeah,
I just love
yeah.
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Well, that in itself is so inspiring because you can't not go away from the Soho Summit and not be inspired or have an idea or collaborate or connect with somebody that you didn't even expect to meet that you would actually be collaborating with and creating something amazing from. So I'm really excited for the virtual summit. I think it's going to be, it'll just have a different energy, but I think it'll have the same outcome. Like, that people are going to come away inspired and they're going to learn tons of things and they may go on to do
Yeah.
great things, right? So
Well, it's definitely going to be different and new for all of us. So it'll be exciting in that sense. And I'm going to do my best to kind of recreate that sort of environment. And we'll see how it goes. And I'm sure we'll all learn something from it. And we'll see what the next one after that turns out to be, whether it's in person or virtual. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I've been doing tons of research and attending other online summits
mhm.
just to kind of take the best out of those and incorporate them into what we do. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it and appreciate the inspiration that I get from people like yourself as well.
Well, I'm going to miss being able to photograph it, but I know that the photography now, as we were talking about, photography is pretty big right now, just as being on camera and putting yourself out there and stuff like that. And so I'm just wondering how you kind of see, because we're not going to be able to photograph the event,
Yeah,
and I can't really do photography right now.
yeah.
Um, but how do you see like photography and video evolving in the arena of business, like moving forward after this?
Hmm. Well, just in terms of, I mean, being involved in the event, I guess there wouldn't be, the traditional type of photography as we know it. But one thing that people still are doing their own photography or want to learn about photography. So certainly you could do a workshop on photography and digital photography, and there's all kinds of different areas that you can get into. So doing a workshop, but then stuff like video, of course, and actually something interesting I saw on, I think it was on Facebook yesterday, that people were just doing, I guess, in their homes, is taking photos from like years ago, like a family photo from 20 years ago when
Mm.
the kids were very young, and then recreating that exact same scene,
Oh, that's kind of fun.
with the pose and the clothes and so on, with the, whatever age everyone is now, and then having those two photos kind of juxtaposed against each other. So that was just something interesting that people can do on their own. But I'm sure, again, people are very creative, right? So we'll come up with some sort of an idea, and maybe we can even brainstorm about this leading up to the event as to, well, how can we, and we don't necessarily have to recreate what was, just come up with some kind of new thing. And I don't know, I mean, here's just thinking off the top of my head, screenshots of video. Of course, that's
yeah.
That's,
I know there's so much we can do. I mean, with our iPhones and our cameras, and but I just had a thought about the summit, that because you were talking about all these stories. I mean, maybe some of those people could share those stories on video, or you could have it kind of have the little blurbs on your website, just stories from. I don't know if you do that already, but that could be pretty inspiring for people who are thinking of joining the summit, or want to start a new business or a venture of some kind.
Yeah, well, that's a great idea.
Yeah. Because then that would kind of get people involved. It'd be kind of interactive, maybe. I don't know. Or maybe you could have people come on during the summit, like in between or something. Say, hey, this is what happened to me last time.
Yeah, well, definitely one of the ideas is to intersperse the day, and it's probably going to be over at least 2 days, if not 3, because you can't have concurrent sessions, right? Because people want to attend one at a time. But intersperse those kind of speakers and workshops with networking sessions where, within Zoom you've got, and you can have different rooms, so you can have like maybe 25 per room. But give people the ability to, either have a theme, so talking about stories of what you learned about yourself, or what you learned about your business, or how you pivoted, or there's all kinds of different areas we can go into. But give people the ability to participate and share their ideas and their learnings, and then with each other.
Yeah, and make connections. I think that's a big part of the SOHO Summit, is making connections, and
for
you
sure.
never know who you're going to meet and do business with or collaborate with. So we're getting to the end now. I just wanted to leave everybody, maybe if you could give a few bits of advice for people, because I mean, you were a visionary starting up your business in the internet world and just social media marketing and all that kind of stuff. And then the SOHO Summit, of course, you're lifting people up to grow in their business and make their mark in the world. And so what kind of, maybe a couple of different pieces of advice for people who may be wanting to do something, make a difference, start a business, that kind of thing?
Well, I think look at this as an opportunity. I think we were far enough into it now that I've had conversations with people about the way they're adapting with it, and there's that saying about the 7 levels of grief. I think it is. I forget what all 7 are, but I think it starts with denial. People were in denial and then fear. So I think we've kind of moved through denial and fear, and now we're into the action. So look at this as an opportunity. So whether that's to pivot your business into some new area, or if you're an employee of a company, maybe this is your opportunity to start that new business that you've always thought of. Maybe you've got this hobby or craft or something that you've been doing that now you can use to supplement your income, because now you can do it, and you can either do training or classes or workshops online, or you can sell the product online, or even if it's just a matter of adapting your own personal life. So I know I've been doing a lot more gardening. I've taken the opportunity to run more often. So physically, I'm actually feeling a lot better. I've been eating better, spending more time, like I said, out in the garden, reading tons, finding good stuff to read. As opposed to, the alternative, what we could do is just binge on Netflix and go through Facebook forever. But definitely, I would say try to limit. That has its place as well, but try to limit the amount of time we spend there, and just do more positive things. Because there's all kinds of good stuff that we can do for ourselves and for our families and the community in general. One other thing that I did like right away, I think in day 1 or 2 of when this happened, is I put together a little group of local business people that I know, and I put a call out, and I said, hey, I don't know what this is going to look like, but I want to put this kind of recovery team together just so that we can all share what we were doing, and just put our minds together. It was kind of like a mini SOHO, but just so there's about 8 of us, and we meet every Monday on Zoom. And we just talk about what we've learned that week. And sometimes it's just people sharing what they've found out about the different government stimulus programs that are in place. And another person actually is working directly with the frontline healthcare workers, and they've set up a nonprofit where they're importing the N95 masks. They've got a supplier out of China. And so that kind of all came together. But just look for these positive things that you can do that are going to make you feel better, but also help the community in whatever way we can, because I think that going forward, local communities and local economy is going to become much more important because of the travel restrictions and the supply chain restrictions and everything else. So definitely trying to support and prop up kind of the local businesses and local communities as much as we can.
Mm-hmm. And the work we do now, I think, is it's almost like a reset. We're like, I feel much for some reason I feel much more relaxed, and less stressed in a way, like, because I was super busy before this, all like when we got back from Mexico, and I was kind of burnt out, and then this happened, and there was a certain level of stress because of this whole situation. But now I feel kind of like you said, like, use this time to really look at this as an opportunity, look after yourself, and I think we can be more productive and grow and adapt. And we may find ourselves even busier, or not busier, but more, intentional and strategic about our businesses, so that we can actually fulfill those dreams and visions and goals that we have for not only our businesses, but our lives, and, the welfare of, people around us in our communities. So thank you so much, Chris, for being here today. And I think we've learned a lot. It's been very enlightening and inspiring. So people can find you at your website at BWest.ca.
That's right. Yep.
And then if they're interested in the SOHO Summit, which I think you all should go, it's amazing. It's SOHOSummit.com.
That's right. Yep.
Awesome. So
well, it's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed chatting with you, and look forward to doing it again in person, hopefully soon. And it's been great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll chat with you again soon, I'm sure.
Okay.
Okay. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.